Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I am reunited with my friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com. And today we're going to talk about some reasonable expectations for the Kansas City Chiefs offense in 2024. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Chiefs Kingdom, last year the Chiefs offense was not what we're used to seeing. The wide receivers had the most drops in the NFL. The running game was non-existent at times. And at times, we just felt like the offense left us wondering what happened. And so this year, the Chiefs went out and they signed Hollywood Brown. They drafted Xavier Worthy. And they had a guy by the name of Carson Steele show out in preseason and in training camp. And so our offensive problems may be solved. But when it comes time to talk about reasonable expectations, most Chiefs fans shoot for the moon. They think that this offense is immediately going to be the best in the NFL, but going from being, a middle-of-the-road offense to being the best is not so easy. So, Josh, my first question for you is, what are some reasonable goals and expectations for this offense in 2024?
That's a good question because a lot of people are expecting a big jump, and you've already mentioned like some Chiefs fans will shoot for the moon. I think obviously they're going to be a lot better passing attack. I don't think the wide receivers are going to lead the league in drops again. I don't think this is going to be the worst wide receiver core in the league. I believe, I think you had the numbers pulled up. How many touchdowns was it that Mahomes threw last year?
I believe he only threw 27. I could be wrong, but I know that this year the over-under on most betting sites is 33 touchdown passes.
Oh, I'm taking the
over-under.
I'm taking the over on that. I'm thinking at least 35 this year. I mean, that number is going to go way up. I think you could see at least one 1,000-yard receiver in this group, and then another guy that has like 700 or 800 yards. And then I think you could get like 400 to 500 out of Xavier Worthy. And then, of course, Travis Kelce is going to be Travis Kelce. I don't know if we'll see a 1,000-yard rusher just because, Andy doesn't love to run the ball, and I think he's going to have a lot of fun with this group of pass catchers this year just because of how much speed is in that group. But Carson Steele, you mentioned him. He's going to be a guy that in short yardage makes us so much better, and I think he's going to claim that RB2 spot pretty soon into the season, honestly.
Yeah, and a couple seasons ago, the Chiefs' offense was number one, and this is when they won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But last year, they weren't as good. They were pretty much one-dimensional. They couldn't throw the ball deep. But Brett Veach went out this offseason, and he signed Hollywood Brown, and he drafted Xavier Worthy, two speedsters that are going to open up this defense or open up this offense to shoot for down the field. This offense is going to be way more explosive than we've seen in the past couple of seasons, and I think that alone is going to make for a much higher powered offense, and we're not going to have the same issues with drops that we did last year. And so I think that alone is going to make this offense at least a few spots better. But if you pair that with the fact that I think Patrick Mahomes might break out again, I mean, this offense is going to probably be bare minimum a top 5 unit. I'm already shooting for them being a top 2 or 3 unit if they're not number 1.
Well, I mean, even with how bad they were last year, by the time the postseason came around, they looked like a fairly competent offense. And it's like they've made so many upgrades, since then. And if they combine the momentum momentum they had at the end of last year, and then combine that with, of course, the upgrades they've made this year, yeah, I mean, you can have big expectations for this offense. I'm not saying anyone shouldn't. I mean, I think this passing attack is going to be so good. Rashee Rice over the middle with, Hollywood and, of course, Xavier Worthy taking the top off defenses. And another thing, too, that I've been thinking about is I know Hollywood is probably going to miss the first few games with that shoulder injury or AC joint. And I think we're going to see kind of a similar thing to like 2019 when Tyreek Hill had that injury. McCole Hardman was a rookie. And you saw McCole Hardman step into Tyreek's place, and we almost didn't miss a beat. And I think you're going to see something similar where Xavier Worthy just steps into the place of Hollywood Brown, and he's going to have like a handful of long touchdowns in the first few games of the season. And Hollywood Brown getting hurt is almost kind of a blessing in disguise, because then you get to throw Xavier Worthy out there at the beginning of the season and get him those valuable reps. And so he'll be further along than probably many of us thought he would be because of that Hollywood Brown injury. And I just think those two are going to, they're going to let Mahomes, they're going to allow Mahomes to have a lot more passing yards, a lot more passing touchdowns this year. And then, of course, Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice underneath, man. I mean, just think about it with those two.
Well, listen, the creativity has always been there from Andy Reid. The scheming has always been there from Andy Reid. But the problem is he hasn't had the players to scheme up to have a high-powered offense over the past couple seasons. So now that you're adding two of those with Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, and I've even forgot to mention, Rashee Rice is probably going to take a step and be even better than he was last year. Patrick Mahomes is primed to throw at least 4,500 yards. He might get 5,000. And for the touchdowns, the over-under was set at 33. I'm expecting at least 40. And I think that is a pretty conservative number if you look at the previous years of Patrick Mahomes and what he's accustomed to doing. So at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to say that those numbers, like, if they don't happen, I'll be upset. I think it's just last year they were so bad at getting to just 25 points. If they can consistently drop 30 points, 32 points, they're going to be up towards the top of the league in offense in points per game scored, and this team is going to win a lot of football games.
And another thing, too, that I think a lot of people forget is we retained a lot of what most people consider to be the best defense in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
And I remember many times watching games last year, Michael, where it's like, man, you feel bad for this defense because they're giving the offense so many opportunities. Patrick Mahomes has never gotten to play with a defense that good until last year. If they're even 80% as good as they were last year, Patrick Mahomes with that kind of defense and now this kind of offense, oh my God, yeah, why wouldn't you pick them to throw for 4,000 yards and Patrick Mahomes to go for over 40 touchdowns? I mean, he's never played with a defense that good until last year. And then, of course, the offense happened to be the worst he's ever played with. But I don't see that happening again this year. And if we do get that kind of defense again this year, I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Well, and that's the thing. How many times last year did the defense find a way to make an incredible stop, get off the field, and the offense would go 3 and out and punt?
And just immediately screw it up.
It was just almost like clockwork. It would happen 2, 3, 4 times a game, and that's a game killer. I mean, your defense just goes out there and balls, and your offense can't do anything to back it up. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And the Chiefs have always had problems with, one side of the ball being better than the other. But I think we're going to have a much more balanced attack this year, like you alluded to. But the offense is going to be a lot stronger. And I think that Andy Reid has been handicapped in what he's been able to draw up. And he's not going to have those limitations this year with all of the speed on the outside. And so that's really exciting to me. And also, Patrick Mahomes has been playing it safe and taking the checkdowns and going underneath for the past 2 seasons now. And NFL defenses have grown accustomed to that, but now they're going to have to scheme for Xavier Worthy, like you said, taking the top off a defense. Even if Xavier Worthy has, 1 or 2 catches a game, he is going to make every NFL defense game plan for him every week because they can't stop that kind of speed. And again, offensively, we need guys that are going to spread the field and open up the underneath for Travis Kelce, who is probably going to get back to having a 1,000-yard season again. And it's going to be so hard to stop.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too about Xavier Worthy. Even if he's not out there getting a ton of catches, he's going to make the defense take him seriously. And I think a lot of that too is because of how advanced he is as a route runner. I have talked about it many times already, both in the Kingdom Crew podcast that we did and just in conversations that I've had with people. That stutter step route that he had in the second preseason game against the Detroit Lions, like that, I mean, how fast he got in and out of that and just absolutely tricked that DB. This is not McCole Hardman or John Ross this guy can run routes. And I don't know if people have truly grasped that yet about Xavier Worthy. Like, defenses are going to have to take him seriously in year 1.
Yeah. And again, the Chiefs had a bunch of guys last year that nobody was scared of. They dropped the football. And while you still have some of those guys on your roster, you have 3 guys in Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy that can carry the majority of the load. And we haven't even talked about Travis Kelce and the running game that Carson Steele and Isaiah Pacheco are going to provide and keep the chains moving when it's third and short, getting those first downs. It's going to keep this offense on the field, and they're going to be able to put up way more yards. And so at the end of the day, does it really matter if the Chiefs offense is number 1 or number 2 or number 3? If they're winning games, they're putting up enough points, and they're looking efficient doing it. I think the Chiefs' offensive efficiency is going to be a lot more precise this year than it's been in years prior. And so at the end of the day, I don't care what they're ranked as long as we're winning games and putting up enough points.
Well, I think a lot of times last year we said, man, if this was just a top 15 offense, we would run over the entire league just because of how good the defense was. And I'm hoping that they can replicate that defensive performance last year, because if they can, there's some position groups on defense I have concerns about, but I'm hoping for the most part that they can kind of keep that momentum going. And if they do, I just look out, man. I mean, they will run over this league, because, I mean, even last year against like the Bills and the Ravens, our defense balled out, and that was the main reason we won those games. But there were so many opportunities throughout where it's like, man, one more touchdown ends this thing, and the offense just couldn't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think this year they're going to be able to really close out games, but also just, not toy around with their opponent as much.
Oh my God, yeah, like that. What was it, like week 9 or something last year against like the Patriots? Like that game was way closer. The Patriots were awful last year, and we were like in a dogfight with them. It's like that's not going to be happening this year.
No, I don't see it. So, Josh, my final question for you, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. Do you think the Chiefs will have the best offense in the NFL next year?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll, at least in terms of scoring, and I think that's the thing that most people look at when you rank offenses is points per game. I do think they will be number 1, if not tied with someone else for the number 1 scoring offense in the league this year. I just think there's too much talent for them not to do so.
I think the Chiefs are going to have the best offense next year. I think the talent, like you said, they brought in some really good pieces that are just going to make this offense 10 times better than they were last year. And the talent is undeniable. And I think with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid drawing up the plays, this offense is going to be at the bare minimum a top 3 offense. But even in years prior, when there's been other teams that have the number 1 offense, the Chiefs offense has always been better. It's because they have 15. So at the end of the day, I think we're both in agreement that the Chiefs offense is going to be drastically better and going to be the best offense in the NFL. So, Josh, before we get out of here,
real quick, I'll add on one more thing to that. It's like, even if they weren't the number 1 scoring, you would take the Chiefs offense over the other offense, because it's like, okay, their numbers may look better because they like to go. Andy Reid doesn't really like to go for the jugular during the regular season, so our numbers may not look as good. Now, last year they couldn't do that because the offense just wasn't good enough. But I mean, it's even like against the Niners last year. Our offense was terrible, but when Patrick Mahomes had that ball in overtime, you knew the Chiefs were winning it because their offense is just better.
The Chiefs' big-time players make plays on offense better than any other team can. And that's why they're just different.
Summed it up perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best way to describe it is the Chiefs' offense is just different. They're just different, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So that is what we think about that topic. Josh, before we get out of here, where can the people find you?
You can find me here on YouTube, Show Me Football. Me and Michael also had the podcast, Kingdom Crew, so make sure you guys are watching that this year. We put a lot of work into that. It's a lot of fun. And then you can find me on Twitter at ShowMeFB, and then arrowheadaddict.com, showmefootball.com.
Go check out all of Josh's stuff. It will be linked in the description below, especially the Kingdom Crew podcast. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming at you this season and really being consistent with that. So go follow that. That's on Josh's channel, but I'll be on there all season long. And as for me, you guys know, like, comment, and subscribe on this channel. For news, I'm actually going to be live streaming on this Thursday, 8/29 at 3 o'clock Central at the Hollywood Casino. We're going to be doing a pregame show technically for Kansas football, but also talking a lot of Royals and Chiefs, mainly Chiefs. And the Hollywood Casino is going to be giving away some prizes like a Bobby Witt Jr. jersey, an Isaiah Pacheco signed jersey, along with a lot of other memorabilia. So if you want to follow along for this live stream, again, 3 o'clock on Thursday, 8/29, I'll be giving away a lot of stuff as well. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video, and go Chiefs.